Hello and welcome to this video review of Murtop from Hewlett. Originally released in 2023, the reason I'm covering this game now is that the game is available as the free Evercade Game of the Month. So all you have to do is upgrade your Evercade's firmware, and then you can keep this game for as long as you like, at least until you update the firmware again. So if you're wondering whether this month's game is better than Battizabella that it replaces, in my opinion the answer is a definite yes. But just how good is it? Well, let's take a look. You play as Murty, a rabbit who poops bombs whenever you press A, and I do actually love the honesty of that one. The bombs explode along the two axes, giving the game an obvious tilt of the hat to the Bomberman series. However, there are also elements of even older games in here, like arcade classic Dig Dug from Namco, as you burrow through the coloured ground, moving through a grid of squares. This makes for a pleasingly precise and digital feeling control, as one push of the directional button or the joystick on Evercade Alpha moves Murty one full square. There are carrots to collect for bonus points in each stage, but you don't need to collect them. All you need to do to progress is clear all the enemies under the surface of the ground before the timer runs out. There are sometimes moles above the ground who try to drop boulders on you, but you can't actually defeat them because you can't lay bombs above ground. Clear all the other enemies though, and you move on to the next stage. If you can do this in under 15 seconds, you get a nice 5,000 point bonus, and there are multipliers available for collecting carrots or destroying more than one enemy in one go. After every 5 levels, you get a simple bonus stage where you can collect falling carrots while trying not to get hit by the rocks that are also falling from the sky. The randomized nature of the drops makes high score chasing a little imprecise, as you can't work out a route to the best score beforehand, but I suppose that's okay to have some element of luck. Speaking of score, and this is definitely a high score game, the game has its own built-in high score table, which will take quite a lot of play if you want to reach number 1, as it's got a big default score of 350,000 points. But interestingly, the game also generates a QR code whenever you post a high score, allowing you to upload your best effort to an online leaderboard. There's a decent number of players on there, but whether they're all real scores or if someone's worked out the QR code generation system is debatable. I say that because the number of levels completed compared to the scores posted seems dubious in places. Even so, it's nice to see how good you are in general compared to other gamers. Graphically, it's quite a simplistic sprites and coloured tiles on a black background aesthetic, which is of course classic arcade iconography, so if you love 80s coin-ops, you should enjoy the visual style here very much. Murty herself is reasonably well animated, but some of the other sprites are a bit hard to make out at times. However, the main criticism that I have to level at Murtop is the difficulty level. It's surprisingly difficult not to lose a life in just the first few levels. But then you suddenly seem to hit a difficulty plateau and you can clear tens of levels without much trouble at all. There is of course always the temptation to try and score bigger combos than you need to, which inevitably leads to lives lost, but just clearing the enemies one by one is reasonably simple once you know how the enemies chase you and how to avoid being blasted by your own explosions. I do find it refreshing to have a new single-screen arcade game that's based on high scores. I do love that kind of video game, and there's nothing wrong with the way that Murty has been coded. It's actually very solid. However, personally, I just don't love the game like others in the genre. The original Pac-Man has more appeal, still, perhaps due to its power-up system, which Murtop doesn't have unless you count the secret radish bonus level that you seem to unlock by using only rocks to beat your enemies. I also really rate more modern single-screen games like Donut Dodo, which is available on Evercade's Indie Heroes 3 cartridge and was once also a free Game of the Month. Donut Dodo has fiendishly great level design, whereas Murtop feels like it has the framework in place but not the depth of design that these classics have. Maybe I'm missing something with the way the enemy burrows are laid out, but having played it for several days now and beaten that huge top score, I'm finding myself either frequently frustrated or doing well but feeling a bit underwhelmed. I do find it addictive and I do want to get on one of those big rolls of scores, but it happens quite infrequently. I also think the game would have benefited from a 2-player mode, but I suppose friendly fire would have been too much of an issue in co-op, and a versus mode would have just been too similar to Bomberman. Ah well. Overall, I don't think this is a classic then, but it's certainly worth playing, especially if you leave it on the attract loop on Evercade Alpha. It looks really nice. So I give Murty a very respectable 3.5 out of 5. There's absolutely no reason not to give it a go on Evercade, seeing as it's free right now. Well, I have plenty more Evercade videos on my channel, if that's your bag, as well as a regular Sega Sundays series where I play a classic Sega game on original hardware every Sunday. Please hit like and subscribe, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care until then. Cheers.